AITA for kicking out my fiancée for demanding an open relationship after a girl's trip. My fiancée, well, my ex-fiancée now, Chloe, is 27, and I'm 28. We had been together for 5 years. Overall, everything was going well. At least, that's what I thought. We met at a state university during our sophomore year, and we clicked right away. She was smart, funny, and had an energy that just drew you in. We started out as friends, but things quickly got serious. A few years later, we were living in an apartment together, splitting rent and utilities, and making plans for the future. Getting engaged was the natural next step, and when I proposed to her last year on a trip to the coast, she said yes without hesitation. We had even started talking about saving up for a down payment on a house and having kids someday. That's what makes this whole situation so hard to swallow. I wasn't just losing my fiancée, I was losing the life we were building together. She had just returned from a big trip to Miami with her friends. She was gone for about a week, and everything seemed fine before she left. She was excited, making plans, talking about all the restaurants and clubs they were going to. I was happy for her. I had even encouraged her to go and have fun. She works hard in her marketing job, and I figured a vacation would do her good. But when she returned, something was different. I couldn't really put my finger on it, but it was like she wasn't really there. You know when someone is physically in the room, but their mind is a million miles away? It was exactly like that. Usually, after a few days apart, she would greet me at the door with a big smile and a hug, eager to tell me all about her trip. But this time, she barely said anything. I asked her how it was, and she just shrugged, saying, "It was good." Then she walked past me and went straight to our bedroom, leaving her suitcase by the front door. I let it go, thinking she was just tired from the flight. But even that night at dinner, she barely touched her food and spent most of the meal scrolling through her phone. This was completely out of character for her. Over the next few days, her behavior got even stranger. She was on her phone all the time. Literally. She had never been the type to be glued to her phone before, so it stood out to me. And then the way she acted around me changed. She avoided eye contact, seemed distracted when we talked, and even our physical affection had vanished. I'm not saying we were inseparable 24/7, but we had always been close. And now, suddenly, it was as if there was an invisible wall between us. I had this lingering feeling that something was wrong. I decided to give her some space, thinking she would eventually open up. No relationship is perfect. So, I figured if I gave her a little room, she would talk about it when she was ready. But that's not what happened at all. On the contrary, the distance between us grew. So, one evening after dinner, I tried to bring it up. I asked her if something was bothering her or if she had something on her mind. She brushed off my question, saying everything was fine and that I was imagining things, but her tone didn't match her words. It was as if she was trying harder to convince herself than to convince me. I let it slide, but deep down, I knew something was off. After 5 years together, you learn to pick up on these things. I didn't want to push it, but it was eating away at me. What was going on? Why was she acting like this? A few days later, I started noticing patterns. She was getting texts late at night and would flip her phone over as soon as I walked into the room. I'm not the type to snoop or accuse without proof, but this wasn't normal. I thought about confronting her, but I didn't want to come off as paranoid. So, I tried to focus on my work to keep my mind busy. I told myself that if something was going on, she would eventually tell me. And man, I was far from imagining what was about to happen. Looking back, I think I knew something big was brewing without knowing what. One evening, she came home from work and told me she wanted to talk. My heart immediately sank because we all know that nothing good ever starts with "we need to talk." I sat down, trying to stay calm, but my mind was racing a mile a minute. What had I done? What was wrong? We settled on the couch, and I could feel the tension in the air. She was fidgeting with her hands and avoiding my gaze. Then she dropped the bomb on me. "I've been thinking a lot about our relationship lately," she said in a quiet and overly measured voice. I raised an eyebrow. "Thinking about what exactly?" "You know, how we could improve it," she said, finally looking up. "Improve it?" I repeated. "What's wrong?" She hesitated for a moment, biting her lip. "Nothing is wrong," she said quickly. "Everything is great, really." But during the trip, some of the girls talked about their relationships. They were saying how happy they were because they had found ways to give each other more freedom and trust. I blinked, trying to understand. Freedom and trust, I repeated. What does that mean exactly? She was twisting her hands nervously in her lap. Her voice was strangely calm, too calm, as if she was trying to convince herself that this was a normal discussion. She still wasn't looking me in the eyes, staring instead at the wall behind me. And the worst part was that the way she spoke seemed rehearsed, as if she had repeated this speech multiple times in her head. She took a deep breath, as if bracing herself for a major announcement, and then she said it. I think we should try an open relationship. I swear my brain shut down for a second. I stared at her, unable to believe what I had just heard. What? I finally blurted out, louder than I intended. She looked at me, dead serious. I've been thinking about it for a while, she said in a steady tone, as if to persuade herself. I think it could be good for us. I stared at her, dumbfounded. An open relationship? Are you serious? Yes, she answered, calm but firm. It's not as crazy as it sounds. A lot of people do it, and it works for them. It's about trust and honesty. Trust, I repeated, my voice rising. How does bringing other people into our relationship have anything to do with trust? And where is all this coming from? She sighed, running a hand through her hair. Listen, I know it's a lot to take in, but I talked about it with some of the girls on the trip and they shared their experiences. They're happier now. They say it brought them closer to their partners. I shook my head, completely stunned. And what did you think? That I was just going to accept this? That I was going to be okay with it? Her face softened, as if she was trying to stay patient. I'm not saying you have to decide right now. I just think it's something we should consider. We've been together for a long time, and I want to make sure we keep growing, that we don't stagnate. I felt a knot form in my chest. So now you think we're stuck after 5 years together? And what's your solution? Sleeping with other people? She flinched at my words, but didn't back down. It's not just that, she said softly. It's also a way to explore who we are individually while staying together. It doesn't mean I don't love you anymore. Meanwhile, I was sitting there completely devastated. 5 years, 5 damn years building a life together, and she wanted to throw it all away just like that. We had never talked about an open relationship. That wasn't us, not our relationship. I asked her where this was coming from. Was she unhappy? Was she missing something in our relationship? She said no, that she loved me, and that everything was fine. She just thought it could be even better. I didn't understand any of it. If everything was fine, why change anything? I told her that, and she replied, it's not changing, it's evolving our relationship. I won't lie, that made me angry. Evolving? This isn't a Pokemon. This is our relationship. I snapped. I leaned toward her, my eyes narrowed. Be honest, is this because of someone? Did you meet someone on your trip? She jerked her head up, looking almost offended. What? Of course not. She answered immediately, shaking her head. Are you sure? I insisted. Because this is coming out of nowhere, and I have a hard time believing it's just a sudden idea. I swear, she said, her voice slightly higher pitched. There's no one else. I didn't meet anyone. It's not because of that. It's just something I've been thinking about, that's all. I leaned back, my arms crossed. You swear there is no one else? Yes, I swear. It's not about anyone else, it's about us. I told her I needed time to think. I didn't even know what to say anymore. I went into the bedroom and just sat there, staring at the wall. My thoughts were all over the place. Was this real? Did I even know her anymore? After about an hour, I came back out. She was still sitting on the couch, scrolling through her phone as if nothing had happened. I stopped for a moment, then I said, I can't do this. She finally looked up, her face unreadable. What do you mean? I mean that I don't want an open relationship. I'm not interested, and I don't think I ever will be, I said calmly. She put her phone down on the coffee table and crossed her arms. Well, she said slowly, maybe we should take some time to see if we're still on the same page. That was too much for me. I stared at her, dumbfounded by her detachment. 5 years, I said, my voice shaking. 5 years together. And that's all you have to say, like it's nothing. Her expression changed, as if she was starting to realize the gravity of the situation. I didn't want it to happen like this, she said hastily. I just wanted us to talk about it, that's all. There's nothing to talk about, I replied firmly. If you want an open relationship, then you're not the person I thought you were. And I'm not going to stand by while you destroy everything we've built, just because your friends filled your head with these ideas. She sat there in shock. Are you serious? You're kicking me out over this? She asked, her voice breaking. Yes, I said, staring right at her. Pack your bags and leave." Her eyes filled with tears, and she started crying. "I didn't want it to be like this," she sobbed. "I just wanted to talk about it, that's all. I never wanted to hurt you." "There's nothing left to say," I answered her. "This is not a conversation I ever wanted to have. I can't do this, and I won't." She wiped her face, sniffling, then got up and went to the bedroom to pack a bag. I didn't follow her, and I didn't say anything else. A few minutes later, she came out, her bag over her shoulder, and stopped at the door. "Is it really over?" she asked softly. "Yes," I said without looking at her. She hesitated for a moment, then opened the door and left. I sat on the couch, staring at the empty space where she had been standing, and I felt like my world had just collapsed. I asked myself over and over how we got here, but no matter how many times I replayed the situation in my head, I couldn't find a logical explanation. It was the beginning of the end. The night she left, the apartment felt so empty. Her things were still there. Her clothes in the closet, her toiletries in the bathroom, all the little items she liked to have around. But she was no longer there, and it hit me hard. 5 years of living together, of plans, of a future, reduced to nothing in a single conversation. The next morning, my phone wouldn't stop buzzing. Half asleep, I grabbed it from the nightstand. Chloe's name was popping up everywhere. Texts, missed calls, voicemails. I sighed as I scrolled through the texts. "Please, can we just talk?" Read one of them. Another said, "I'm so sorry, I didn't mean to hurt you. I just want to explain." The voicemails were more of the same. In one of them, her voice was cracking. "I know you're angry, and you have every right to be. But please, give me a chance to talk to you. I need to explain. I can't lose you like this." Then her friends started calling me. Apparently, they had found out what happened and were rushing to apologize. They claimed it was their fault, that they had spent the trip talking up the benefits of open relationships, and that Chloe had gotten carried away. One of them even said, "We didn't think she was actually going to talk to you about it," as if that made things better. I told them to leave me alone. I didn't want to hear any excuses or justifications from them. What bothered me the most was that she had let herself be influenced to that extent. If she let herself be swayed so easily by her friends, what else could they convince her of? My family was furious when I told them. My mom kept saying, "You dodged a bullet, honey." My dad, who almost never gets involved in my personal life, told me I did the right thing by standing my ground. This support really meant a lot because, deep down, I was already doubting myself. Her family, on the other hand, was another story. Her mom called me to say that I should give her a second chance, that she was just confused. Her dad tried to lay a guilt trip on me. "You're throwing away a beautiful relationship over a misunderstanding." A misunderstanding? She literally asked to sleep with other people. How could that be a misunderstanding? The worst part was some of our mutual friends. A few tried to make me out to be the bad guy, saying I had overreacted. One of them even said, she was just being honest about what she wanted. That's a good thing, right? Yes, honesty is good, but there's a difference between being honest and blindsiding your fiancé with a proposal that goes completely against everything you've built together. One friend, let's call him Mark, really got on my nerves. He kept telling me I was old-fashioned, that I needed to be more open-minded. He even said, "It's 2024, man. Relationships aren't black and white anymore." I couldn't believe he was defending her, especially after seeing how much I was hurting. Then there was Jessica, one of her close friends, who let it slip that Chloe had already talked about the idea of an open relationship before the trip. Apparently, she had joked about it during a night out with friends a few months earlier, and everyone had just laughed it off. That hurt me even more. I felt like she had already been testing the waters behind my back for a while. I spent the next few days wondering what to do. She kept calling and texting me, begging to meet up and talk. Part of me wanted to hear her out, but the other part was still too angry and hurt. How do you come back from that? How can you trust someone capable of dropping a bomb into a stable relationship so calmly? For several days, I was stuck in a sort of limbo. On one hand, I didn't want to see her or listen to her excuses. On the other, not having answers was eating away at me. What if all this was hiding something else? What if she had been lying to me since way before this whole open relationship thing? I remember pacing around my living room, turning it all over in my head. I even almost called her, but every time I picked up my phone, I changed my mind. Finally, it was 2 close friends who convinced me to see her again. "You need closure," one of them told me. Otherwise, it's going to keep eating at you. And as hard as it was to admit, he was right. I needed closure. I agreed to see her, mostly to see if she would finally tell me the truth. Something told me there was more to all this, and I wanted answers. We agreed to meet at a coffee shop. I didn't really know what I was hoping for. Maybe a logical explanation or at least a sincere apology, but I was not prepared for what I was about to find out. I arrived 10 minutes early. I wanted to get settled, to mentally prepare myself for whatever she was going to say. I was nervous, but mostly I couldn't wait for it to be over. She arrived right on time, looking tired. Her hair was a bit messy, her makeup was minimal, and she looked stressed. I admit, a small part of me felt bad for her, but I reminded myself why we were there. She sat across from me, and for a few seconds, we just looked at each other. Then she started talking. She apologized right away, saying she had handled everything poorly and never wanted to hurt me. She explained that the idea of an open relationship wasn't something she had been planning for a long time. It was a topic brought up by her friends during the trip, and she had gotten swept up in their enthusiasm. According to her, it was just a hypothetical, a discussion, not something she actually wanted to pursue. I didn't want to hurt you, she kept repeating. I just wanted us to explore the idea together. I told her that if she really cared about our relationship, she would never have dropped something like that on me overnight. She should have talked to me about it calmly beforehand, not after a trip where her friends had clearly put these ideas in her head. She nodded, tears in her eyes, saying she understood. She seemed genuinely upset, but I didn't buy it. Something about her story didn't add up. That's when I decided to ask the question I hadn't planned on asking. Can I see your phone? Her face went pale. I will never forget that expression. She hesitated for a second, then handed it to me, probably convinced I wasn't actually going to look through it. I'm not the type to snoop. I've never felt the need to invade someone's privacy. But right then, my gut was screaming at me that something was wrong. My heart was beating so hard I could hear it in my ears. A part of me didn't want to do it. What if I found something that would forever change the way I looked at her? But another part, the part that couldn't ignore this gut feeling, needed to know. My hands were shaking. I opened her messages, and it didn't take long to find it. A conversation with some guy I didn't know. They had been talking for a while, and it was clear it wasn't innocent. Flirty messages, late-night texts, and even some suggestive hints about meeting up in the future. The first message that struck me was from this unknown guy. They were exchanging cheesy messages. He called her baby and beautiful, and she wasn't pushing him away. On the contrary, she was encouraging it. She laughed, sent emojis, and replied, "You're incorrigible." A message from him read, "I can't wait to see you again." I was disgusted. That was all I needed to see. This wasn't just an idea for an open relationship. She had already started looking for candidates. I put the phone down and looked at her. She was already crying, stammering that it wasn't what I thought, that they were just talking. I told her to stop, that there was no use lying anymore. So this open relationship thing, it wasn't just an idea, huh? I asked. You were already looking for candidates. She flinched, her breathing jagged. No, it's not like that, she said hastily. I was just talking to him, that's all. It wasn't serious. It was a mistake. Okay, a stupid mistake. A mistake. I repeated, my voice rising. You were talking to him, flirting with him, making plans with him. And you expect me to believe it was just a mistake? Yes, she cried, weeping. I didn't want it to go any further. I was just curious. I love you, and I don't want to lose you. I looked at her, filled with anger. You already lost me, I said coldly. The day you thought it was acceptable to bring someone else into our relationship, you lost me. Please, she begged. Don't end all of this over a stupid mistake. I'll do anything to fix things. I stood there for a moment watching her break down, but the anger in my chest wasn't fading. You made your choice, I said calmly. And I'm making mine. It's over. I kept my composure because we were in public, but inside I was furious. The mere fact that she had even considered such a thing while we were engaged was enough for me to move on. She kept apologizing, but I didn't want to hear any of it. I stood up. I told her we were done, and I left the coffee shop. As I walked out, I felt a strange mix of anger, sadness, relief, and even a bit of clarity. I glanced back and saw her sitting there in tears, but they didn't seem like sincere tears. They were the tears of panic from someone desperately trying to fix a situation she had completely lost control of. Her words rang hollow, as if rehearsed. She was just saying whatever she thought would get me to forgive her. It was just messages, she kept repeating, but her tone betrayed her words. There was no real remorse, just fear. Fear of the consequences, fear of being alone, fear of losing the comfort of the life we had built. And looking at her, I knew I couldn't go on anymore. No matter what she said, the damage was done. For the first time in weeks, I knew exactly where I stood. I wasn't going to let her drag me down or play with my emotions anymore. Whatever we had, it was over. After that meeting at the coffee shop, I thought everything would be over. I blocked her number that very night and removed her from all my social media. I didn't want to see her, hear from her, or know what she was doing anymore. I was done. For a few days, I finally had peace. She didn't try to contact me, and I was finally starting to feel like I could move on. Then, without warning, our mutual friends started messaging me. They had heard about what happened at the coffee shop, and most of them were apologizing. Apparently, the news about the guy she was talking to had spread, and suddenly the ones who were defending her before had switched sides. One of her friends told me she had started dating that guy right after we broke up. I wasn't surprised. At this point, it was obvious she already had him lined up. What did surprise me, though, was how quickly everything fell apart for her. Apparently, she was posting pictures of him on social media, trying to make it look like they were the perfect couple. Mutual friends said it seemed forced, as if she was trying too hard to prove something. One of her captions read, "When you finally find someone who truly understands you." Clearly a jab aimed at me. But the funniest part was that no one bought it. Some friends even told me she had blocked them when they confronted her about moving on so fast. Then, a week later, nothing. No more photos, no more cheesy captions, just total silence. That's when the rumors started circulating. The guy had ghosted her, and she was taking it really badly. She was telling everyone he had led her on and used her, but honestly, I wasn't surprised. It was as if karma had come knocking on her door, and she didn't know how to handle it. When I heard that, I felt no pity. Call me petty, but to me, it was simply justice. You can't treat people the way she treated me and expect everything to work out. Life doesn't work that way. Some of our mutual friends started cutting ties with her. They said she was acting toxic, that she was lying about me and playing the victim. She was telling people I was manipulative, that I didn't respect her. Complete nonsense. Fortunately, most of our friends saw right through her game, especially after finding out she had been with someone else the day after our breakup. It's crazy how people change their minds when the truth comes out. Some of the very same friends who had told me I was overreacting started apologizing endlessly. They admitted they were wrong, that they hadn't realized how messed up the situation was. I told them it was no big deal, but honestly, it felt good to have their support again. As for her, she tried to call me from other numbers after I blocked her. Apparently, when the new guy ghosted her, she started having regrets and wanted me back. She left me a voicemail saying she wanted to get back together, that she realized how much she loved me. I didn't reply. I didn't even consider it for a second. By that point, I had completely moved on. The person I thought I knew and the person she truly was were two totally different people, and there was no going back. After all that, cutting ties wasn't just about phones or social media. It was about completely erasing her from my life, physically and mentally. I packed up the rest of her things. She had taken the essentials the night she left, but there was still plenty of stuff scattered around the apartment. Clothes in the closet, toiletries in the bathroom, her favorite mug, and a few books she always kept on the nightstand. Packing those boxes was strangely emotional. Every item reminded me of the life we had built together. And for a second, I wondered if I was being too harsh. But as soon as I thought back to the coffee shop, to the messages I had read on her phone, all my doubts vanished. I texted her from a friend's phone, telling her to come get her stuff before the end of the week, or else it was going to Goodwill. She came by 2 days later, her eyes puffy as if she had been crying. I didn't let her in. I handed her the boxes at the door, told her goodbye, and shut it. She didn't protest, didn't try to come inside. She stood there for a few seconds as if she wanted to say something. Then she left. That was the last time I saw her in person. After that, there were still a few loose ends to tie up. We had shared subscriptions and a few joint bank accounts. So, I went through everything. Netflix, Spotify, the utility bills, all of it. I canceled everything or changed the passwords. It wasn't out of spite. I simply wanted a clean slate. The hardest part was the mutual friends. Some had already cut ties with her, but others were still trying to stay neutral. I understood they didn't want to pick a side, but I couldn't do that. If they continued to hang out with her after all this, I didn't want them in my life anymore. I made it clear to some of them that I couldn't stay friends if they remained close to her. Most understood, but a few thought I was being excessive. You can't just erase 5 years like it's nothing, one of them told me. But that was exactly what I had to do. Little by little, I shrank my circle. It wasn't to punish anyone. It was to protect myself. I didn't want to hear about her anymore, see her in tagged photos, or get updates on her life. A few weeks later, a mutual friend told me she was still talking about me, making up stories to play the victim. She was saying I had overreacted, that I had humiliated her. Of course, she conveniently forgot to mention that she was already talking to another guy. I let it go. I didn't want to clear my name or set the record straight. The people who mattered already knew the truth, and the rest could believe whatever they wanted. With time, everything settled down. Her name stopped coming up in conversations. The messages from friends acting as go-betweens stopped. It was as if she was slowly fading out of my life. And honestly, that's all I ever wanted. Comment. I think we've all faced moments when we had to make an incredibly hard choice for our own well-being. It is in those defining moments that choosing yourself isn't selfish, it is necessary. Setting and holding firm to your boundaries is one of the kindest things you can do for your future self. Healing isn't a linear path, and it often begins with accepting a painful truth. True peace comes not from receiving an apology, but from taking back your power to move forward. We can't control the actions of others, but we are always responsible for our own responses and peace of mind. Remember to be kind to yourself through every step of this journey. Walking away from what isn't right for you makes space for what truly is. Always remember you deserve a love that feels safe, respectful, and whole. If you like the stories, don't forget to leave a comment and support the channel by subscribing. See you in the upcoming stories.